now the government is trying in its best to build primary and secondary schools, but it's not enough to have the structure. The structure is just the hardware. If you don't have the software, who are the humans to impact this knowledge, then means you're not going to produce the kind of people you want.
Another major area that we need to be built on education is enterprise. We all agree that the engine room for the revolution that we see, economic revolution, is enterprise. To check history, the trends of history, great nations are built on commerce and enterprise. If you look at from the medieval periods to today, one of the most lasting legacies of great empires are the businesses, the economies, the enterprise, the trade that they are recognized. Britain is what it is today because of the kind of commerce it has introduced, the creativity in Britain. If you look at America, you look at China today, commerce is the engine room that integrates world, that evolves society. And it's important that we also invest massively in enterprise. As a people, as a nation, I think the next phase for us is to focus on business and enterprise. And you notice, if you look at America, for instance, today, you discover that a chunk of the businesses in America are actually SMEs and SMEs basically, small and medium scale enterprises. And that is the engine room for socio-economic development. If you look at China today, few people coming together, I think the biggest virus that eats up the concept of business in Nigeria is that we go to business thinking that we need to own it all. The idea of own it all is one of the biggest challenges that has crippled a lot of Nigerian businesses. We need to start from the level of, I have an idea, how do I synergize with people? How do I build capacity by synchronizing with people who have the framework? There are a lot of Nigerians who have talent, who have business ideas, good business models, and all they have is the idea, for instance, and they are scattered and littered all over the world. And they are saying, I don't have the capital in Nigeria, I don't know how to invest, I don't know how to drive the business in Nigeria. And there are some people who, they have been trained, they are professional, they have acquired skills and education in different spheres of life. And what they can do is manage such businesses. I think it's important now that we begin to create, not just government creating, but we as a people creating instruments or frameworks that can encourage people who want to do businesses. If I am in America today and I want to do a business, I should be able to find a window of people or a group of people in Nigeria who are already involved in one or two businesses and are willing to synergize with them. I think grassroots business is key. For instance, when you say you want to do agricultural, you want to do an agricultural related kind of business, and you know you've acquired training in America how to process a particular fruit or process a particular seed to a semi-finished or finished product, and you're thinking, how do I get land? How do I get this? If there are people who their main core line of business is like an intermediate kind of a person, he's in between different business. I'm saying, okay, if I identify one person who is involved in this line of business, if I identify this person who is in this line of business, I can provide land or I can help them gain credits. That's his own line of business, having to pursue credits for people and all of that. So there's a contribution across the chain. It will strengthen people and strengthen people's ability to come into Nigeria to do businesses. One of the biggest challenges that we have in our society today in Nigeria is that people complain that they don't have cash, they have ideas but they don't have money to thrive on businesses. But if you ask, do you have a robust business plan, and you don't have it, you know, that ability to interact with people and build strong frameworks that would help your business grow, we need to start encouraging that. I learned recently government started a platform, the Win platform, where if you have a business idea, they will support your business idea, provide access to you and all of that, credit or in some cash for you to start business. Those are the platforms that we're looking for. I also want even private sector to be interested, to be involved in enterprise is very, very important to socio-economic development. So you want to say something?
We need to start breaking traditional strongholds. You hear people complain of unemployment. There's this mentality that you need to go to school, you need to get a degree and you need to work. This get a job. This mentality is promoted by the institutions, the family institutions. Now, the reality is societies, the economies of the world, just like Michael said, built on small and medium scale enterprise. Check what happens in Germany. You see families involved in businesses and becoming supply chains to bigger companies that we end up getting to know about. This is how resources and wealth of the nation moves around. Talking about enterprise, I think entrepreneurial education should actually come a bit early as part of tertiary curriculum. If possible, it should actually come at the secondary level, such that it gives you an opportunity to ruminate over an idea, an area of business you would like to do. If it was technology or whatever, it gives you an opportunity to make mistakes. It gives you an opportunity to fail a couple of times. If you failed in business as a teenager, nobody's going to be worried. But if you fail in business as someone that's in his 30s, everybody's worried, because at that point, society expects you to be married, you should have a family, you can't be running a family on uncertainties and things like that. But if we incorporate that consciousness in us to learn to take risks early, which is done in the Western world. Look at Facebook today. How old is Mark Zuckerberg? But he started taking risks early, and today it has paid off. All of us are on Facebook. He's making billions of dollars off it. But what if Mark Zuckerberg was trained to believe that he needed to go to school, in quotes? You have to go to school anyway, but you need to look beyond going to school. Because if you just go to school, you're just going to sit and hope to get a job, instead of creating a job. So enterprise in this scenario creates job opportunities, creates businesses, not just waiting to get a white-collar job. That's all I have to say.
Wow, that's a good one. You know, it's been very exciting. And okay, moving on now, we're going to be talking about patriotism, basically. How patriotic are you to your country? You see, the way you portray your country is exactly how your country is like. And you know, for all of the people, what do you think about patriotism? Are we patriotic as Nigerians?
Oh, that's a very serious question. Like, first of all, I'd like to start with letting us know what patriotism is, because for some individuals, patriotism is, oh, I belong to Nigeria, or I belong to this country. It's more than that. Patriotism is a strong feeling of national interest. You know, it forms a core part of your being. You know, you just like you belong to a family. The same way you belong to a country, there's an identification with a national vision, a national interest, such that you become an ambassador of that nation where you're from, whether you're within or without. You know, for those of us right now, we're talking from Aberdeen. It is a strong spirit of patriotism. That passion, the zeal, you know, the sense of belonging to a nation is what drives us to being from this part of the world to Nigeria. Why? Because we are patriotic. We are concerned about the happenings in our country. We look at the Olympics today. You know, someone misses the gold medal of an Olympic and is crying. He's not crying because he has lost gold for himself. He's crying because he has let down his nation. That is a strong sense of national identity. That is patriotism. Of course, a lot of Nigerians are patriotic, and I must give it to them. You know, a lot of people are doing a lot of work. You know, forming up, you know, institutions, coming up with initiatives to ensure that Nigeria is moved from where it is right now to the next level. But a lot more needs to be done in our institutions, in the schools, in the government, in the churches. Everybody has got a role to play. I remember when we were growing up, when the national anthem was being sung, I grew up to know that once you hear the sound of the anthem, you stand until the anthem finishes. And the first few lines of the Nigerian national anthem is, "Arise, O compatriots, Nigeria's call obey." It's a clarion call. It's what we've been born into, and it's something we must obey.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
You want to say something?
No, I'll just move by his own speed, talking about the national anthem and Arise, O compatriots. I think the second song I even have more.
O God of creation, direct and no cast, guide our leaders right, help our youth the truth to know.
And that's the idea of this forum. So we're trying to make sure that the youth, because the majority of the youths are in social media, what we're talking will be there, so they will be able to know this truth, that patriotism is the key for national development, that if you're not patriotic about a team, you cannot put your interest in it. Now, interest is the mother of learning. You can't learn anything there's no interest. I can't hold this without having interest. So when you are patriotic about your country, you give your best, you give your all, you give your heart, you give everything, and that's the foundation for change in our country.
If I may add, the patriotism has to do with working for a noble cause. Because some people in the outward, it might seem to be patriotic, but inward, what is the cause you're working for? It's not. It doesn't have to be something that has to be personal. It has to be something that it has to be selfless. You have to lay yourself for it. You have to. When you want, now those days when we recite the national pledge, you recite the pledge with passion. But now people just recite it on their lips. You know, I pledge to Nigeria, my country. It's a pledge. When you pledge, you have to live it. And since you have pledged in the past, when you remember that pledge, you ought to live it. You know, when I see some things happening now, and I begin to wonder, is this a patriotic act? In the outward, it might seem to be patriotic, but if you look at it in a different way, it's not really patriotic. So when we are doing our patriotism, let it be with a noble cause, a selfless cause. That's what I want to
All right. In terms of patriotism, I'd like going to the basics because for me, there's this essence of seasoning in whatever you want to do. There's one thing I've always had to think about, which has to do with citizenship education. A lot of us Nigerians, we didn't really have to get a lot in the citizen education aspect of it from the primary school level. Besides being patriotic, we have to know our rights, we have to know our privileges. When we know our rights and our privileges, we can demand for them. But then we have to get that identity as Nigeria. The prevailing identity a lot of us carry along nowadays is not even our tribe, it's our family name. And that is, as they say, an atom is the smallest indivisible part of an element. Now, why should we be thinking of Nigeria from an atomistic perspective, just our family? Everybody, a lot of people right now on the streets, what are they interested in? Oh, they are interested in their own future and the future of their children. What happens to the larger society? Where is the patriotism in there? Now, I understand it's difficult to start thinking of the larger society when you think the larger society is not thinking of you. But there should be this mindset, that identity of being a Nigerian. You should wear it like an armor. You should be proud of it. Like the American citizens, there's this air around them. They carry themselves like American. Because they carry themselves with that air, you look up to them and you accord them that regard. Now, if you are a patriot, you will not want to do something that is detrimental. Because if you can decide to stake your identity, you realize that whatever you're going to do would associate to your country, and as a result of that, you will desist from such acts. So corruption, different vices will actually be limited if we can actually imbibe the culture of citizenship education. And I think that should start not just at the primary level, at the kindergarten level. The kids need to know they are Nigerians. They need to know that there is a future, a very bright one. They need to know that they have to work for that future by being upright.
Wow. So if I just come in, many Nigerians will say we've been patriotic for several years. How has it paid up for us? I like to say if you are patriotic about a cause, if you are patriotic about your country, and that the patriotism, I want to link it with our previous discussion about enterprise. So when you are patriotic, it means you put your heart towards a cause. Now when you put your heart towards a cause, then you will now know if there's a problem in the society and how you can fix it. In fixing a problem, that brings about enterprise. Because you'll be rewarded for what you were able to solve, not the problem you created. It's the problem you solved.
We are the future.
Maintenance doesn't actually come easy. You know, it's just, let's talk about health now. It's expected that you should probably do medical checkup periodically at a particular time, but because you think this medical checkup is going to cost you some money, you probably want to leave it until you have malaria and then you have no choice but to see the doctor. That's what happens to our
policy formulation is not the major point. No, it's not the onus of where we should be now. I think it should be implementation and sustainability. The laws are there, the policies are there, the legislations are there, guidelines, rules, regulations, they are all there. But it is in the implementation.